Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're not just looking at a game, we're really peeling back the layers on something that's, well, it's properly ignited the gaming world. Stirred up huge acclaim, but also some really passionate debates.
Yeah.
We're plunging into split fiction. Now, just imagine this. You're playing as two writers. One's deep into sci-fi, thrilling, maybe a bit cynical. The other's weaving these vibrant fantasy tales, dragons, magic, all that.
Right.
But here's the twist, and this is what grabs you straight away. They get literally trapped inside their own stories, intertwined, and they have to work together to survive.
And this isn't just, any game with a hook. This is Josef Fares' latest, a name that's kind of become shorthand for bold, maybe unpredictable vision in games.
That grinning chaos merchant description feels pretty apt sometimes.
It really does. He's known for being outspoken, dedicated to pure co-op. So our mission today is to really explore Split Fiction's layers. The groundbreaking gameplay, sure, but also the ambitious story, the surprising controversies, and the incredibly varied player reactions.
Exactly. We want to figure out why it's a masterpiece to some, but maybe a missed opportunity, or even frustrating for others.
And what that tells us about co-op gaming, maybe the whole industry. We'll be looking at critical reviews. We've got insights from an interview with Fares himself, plot breakdowns, and importantly, a real unfiltered look at player discussions, like on Reddit.
All trying to understand why this split exists for a game that, on paper, has such universal praise. You might think, okay, universally acclaimed game, straightforward, right? Simple win.
Yeah, seems obvious.
But here's where it gets genuinely interesting, where the stakes kind of get raised. We're pulling back the curtain on a game that really dares to be different, pushing boundaries, and we have to ask, what happens when this single, really strong vision meets a diverse audience, an audience with very different expectations? And what does that friction, that tension, mean for where interactive storytelling is going? This isn't just about a game review. It's trying to understand interactive art and shared experiences a bit better. Okay, so to really get Split Fiction, we absolutely need to understand the driving force behind it. Josef Fares, his journey, his whole philosophy, it feels like it's baked into every part of this game. Let's unpack that first.
Yeah, you've hit on something really crucial there. Fares' path is pretty unique. He wasn't always in games. He actually started out as an award-winning film director in Sweden, made 5 feature films.
God, wow, like what?
Well, things ranging from Jala, which was a really popular comedy back in 2000, kind of goofy but well-loved, and then more serious stuff like Zozo in 2005, which was critically acclaimed, very personal, based on his childhood fleeing the Lebanese Civil War.
So real range there. But why the jump from successful filmmaker to games? That seems like a big leap.
It really was. And it wasn't casual. He talked about, his passion for film kind of waning and this growing curiosity, almost an obsession with interactive stuff. He even joked that making a movie felt like a vacation compared to making games.
A vacation? That tells you something about how challenging he finds games.
Exactly. He felt the passion for movies just wasn't burning the same way anymore. He needed a new creative outlet, and games were it. He'd loved them since he was a kid, apparently, playing Pong back in Lebanon.
So it wasn't just dissatisfaction. It was this pull towards something new, something interactive he'd loved for ages. That's a powerful reason for a career change.
It totally is. And it fits his whole approach. He didn't go to film school. He just learned by made like 50 short films before his first feature. Same kind of independent spirit brought him to games.
Right.
After his 5th movie, a friend nudged him to go to this student game jam. Just a creative session, really. And bam, that night, he basically conceptualized Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons, laid out the controls, the emotional core, everything.
Just like that.
Pretty much. Then he took the prototype to Starbreeze. They suggested, maybe cautiously, let's do a test project. And Fares, in classic Fares style, basically said, fuck a test, I'm doing the whole thing.
Huh. Okay, yeah, that sounds like him. That conviction.
Absolutely. And that conviction drove a 1.5 years of intense work. Brothers came out in 2013, and, well, it sold over 10 million copies now. Huge success. Real proof of his vision for co-op.
Fuck a test. You gotta love it. And that explains why, after Brothers, he didn't just join some big studio, he founded his own, Hazelight.
With a very specific goal, right?
Precisely. Hazelight was built from the ground up with this singular mission, make story-driven co-op-only games, which is actually surprisingly rare. You get big single-player games or multiplayer with drop and drop out, but this is different.
Yeah, you don't see many studios only doing co-op. Right. Fares always emphasizes their games aren't just designed with co-op, they are designed and written right from the beginning to be co-op. It's fundamental. He might not write the code, but like a film director, he sets that vision for story, for mechanics, and trusts his team to nail it. It's their whole identity.
And this dedication, this focus on a pure gaming experience, it ties right into his famous no bullshit philosophy, that outspokenness he's known for.
Oh, absolutely. He's famously, almost defiantly, against certain industry trends, especially live service games, the ones constantly trying to sell you stuff, and microtransactions. He just sees them as bad for players.
He hasn't minced words about that.
Not at all. Remember that quote, "It doesn't matter where I work or what I do, I will always say what I want. Do we live in a fucking communist country?" It's bold, maybe provocative, but it sums him up. His belief is no microtransactions, no bullshit, just pure gaming love. He genuinely thinks great games will just do well on their own merit.
He advocates for creativity first, basically. Money follows good ideas, not the other way around.
Exactly. Creativity and money need to meet, sure, but creativity has to lead. He's not just pushing co-op, he's pushing for better value, real innovation, not manipulative monetization. And that's not just talk, it's how Hazelight operates.
So what does all this mean for Split Fiction then? It means you're stepping into a world built by someone who actively challenges norms, who really prizes that pure gaming experience, and who's built a whole studio around one very specific, very demanding type of interactive story.
Yeah.
He's putting his money where his mouth is, quite literally. That sets the stakes incredibly high, doesn't it? Knowing that passion, that opinionated vision is behind it, it definitely makes you more curious about what he's actually delivered this time and how players are reacting to it. Okay, with that context, let's dive into Split Fiction itself. It feels like it takes that Fares co-op vision and pushes it even further than It Takes Two, which was already Game of the Year. This seems even more ambitious.
It absolutely does. And the core idea, the premise, is just really clever. It sets everything up perfectly. You've got these two main characters, Mio Hudson, she's the sci-fi writer, kind of cynical, nihilistic, introvert.
Okay.
And then Zoe Foster, the fantasy writer. Energetic, extroverted, total opposite. They end up at this place, Raider Publishing, supposedly prestigious, invited to test the machine, an experimental simulator that literally brings their stories to life.
Sounds cool, but I sense a but coming.
Oh, yeah. The tension ignites when Mio, being suspicious, accidentally falls into Zoe's simulation bubble as the machine starts up. Big mistake. Causes this massive system glitch.
Trapped.
Exactly. Trapped inside their intertwined stories. They're suddenly living in this chaotic mashup of sci-fi and fantasy bits of their own worlds, but all jumbled up and alien because of the collision.
And crucially, this isn't just a game you can play co-op. You have to. That's fundamental.
Absolutely. Split Fiction is cooperative multiplayer only. Mandatory 2 players. Either local split screen, on a couch.
The classic way.
The best way, some might say. Or online. And Hazelight really supports this with their friend's pass system, which is brilliant, actually.
Explain that again.
So only one person needs to buy the game. Then they can invite a friend to play the entire game with them for free.
The whole thing, that's huge.
It is. It lowers that barrier to entry massively. Really underscores that pure gaming love thing Fares talks about. Plus, it's got cross-platform play. So PC, PlayStation, Xbox, doesn't matter, you can play together. It's all about making it a truly shared, accessible experience, not just a tacked-on mode.
Okay, so two clashing genres, two clashing personalities trapped together. What does that actually feel like to play? It sounds potentially chaotic, ambitious for sure.
It's an action-adventure platformer, third-person view, but the key thing is variety, relentless variety. Each stage, sometimes even parts of stages, throws unique, authored one-off gameplay mechanics at you. Things you don't see again.
Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, so one moment, you might be commanding this huge dragon. Zoe's steering it through canyons, Mio's aiming its acid breath at enemies. Classic fantasy ride.
Got it.
Then next thing you know, you're wielding laser swords, dodging plasma fire and zero-G on some sci-fi freighter. Or maybe you're shape-shifting into different creatures to solve puzzles. Mio's techie sci-fi world smashes right into Zoe's magical fantasy, constantly.
Wow. Okay, so you always need both players using different skills.
Always. Constant collaboration, communication, using those distinct character abilities in totally new ways, every single time. Critics called it Nintendo-esque abandon, just throwing fresh ideas at you nonstop. Never get stale.
Sounds exhilarating, but also maybe a bit dizzying.
It can be, but in a good way. Keeps you engaged. And apparently, it was incredibly hard to develop. Fares mentioned even a sequence that lasts maybe a few minutes for the player could take his team months to get right. That shows the dedication to mechanical novelty.
And it's not just the main story path, right? There's extra stuff too.
Exactly. Beyond the main narrative chapters, there are these optional side stories. You find portals to them. They're based on like unfinished ideas the characters had as kids, little concepts they dreamed up but never finished.
Oh, neat, like exploring their creative pasts.
Kind of. And each side story has its own unique gameplay mechanic too. So one might be a 2D platformer, another could be stealth-based. It just keeps layering on the variety. It's that Hazelight signature, always something new.
This sounds like a truly massive undertaking, just creatively exhausting to even imagine making. And the reviews reflected that ambition, didn't they?
Oh, absolutely. Launched to universal acclaim, according to Metacritic. Scores were like 90 to 93 out of 100 across platforms. OpenCritic had something like 98% of critics recommending it.
98%. That's staggering.
It really is. Publications were throwing around words like masterpiece, calling it an early frontrunner for Game of the Year 2025. And the sales matched the hype. Over 1 million copies sold in just 2 days.
2 days.
Yep. Hit 2 million in a week. And by May 2025, it was over 4 million. It's clear they didn't just hit a home run. It was more like a grand slam, proving that this dedicated co-op model can be a massive commercial success.
What's fascinating here is just the sheer audacity of it. You're not just playing one game, you're effectively playing two, constantly switching genres, mechanics, collaboration styles. It sounds like this non-stop thrill ride, always unfolding, never letting you settle. But beneath that frantic energy, it also sounds incredibly challenging to pull off. Not just technically, but keeping the story together, making it land emotionally. And that brings us to the narrative itself, which seems to raise the stakes considerably for Mio and Zoe, hinting at a depth beyond just the action.
Yeah, the story actually goes surprisingly deep, especially given how fast-paced the gameplay is. The main conflict, starting with them getting trapped, quickly turns darker. Raider Publishing. Not so prestigious, they have a hidden motive, stealing ideas. But not just submitted ones. Mio, with her skeptical mind, figures it out. The machine isn't just simulating, it's actively siphoning dormant and unfinished ideas straight from their memories while they're plugged in.
Whoa, that's insidious, like intellectual property theft on a psychic level.
Pretty much. And that realization sparks their rebellion. Zoe, being more intuitive and proactive, suggests trying to cause more glitches, destabilize the system from within, hoping to break free.
And Raider, the CEO, doesn't just let them.
Oh no, he wants that stolen IP. He escalates things, tries bribing them. Then, when his own scientists raise ethical flags, he just fires them. It adds this layer of corporate critique under all the sci-fi and fantasy chaos.
So it's not just a physical escape, it's an emotional journey too. They're fighting a system, but also maybe themselves.
Exactly. As they navigate these mashed up worlds, being forced together, facing danger, they inevitably learn about each other. And more importantly, they start confronting their own baggage, their own traumas.
How does that play out?
Well, Zoe's arc revolves around her grief over her sister Ella's death. She blames herself, can't move past it. Her fantasy stories kind of reflect that themes of regret, wanting to rewrite the past.
Ah, okay. Escapism with a purpose.
Sort of.
Yeah.
And Mio. She struggles with repression, shuts down emotions to cope with her own past trauma. That comes out in her harsh personality, her cynical sci-fi tales. Their journey becomes about breaking down those personal walls as much as escaping Raider.
Which leads to them literally going inside their own minds. That sounds incredibly personal for an action game. A bold move.
It really is, but it pays off thematically. They take this literal journey into their subconscious. For Mio, they fight through this harsh wasteland, a metaphor for her inner state to confront dark Mio, this embodiment of her negativity.
And Zoe helps her.
Yeah, Zoe, with her empathy, helps Mio understand and let go of that self-destructive trauma defense. Then, in Zoe's subconscious, they navigate these dark childhood memories linked to her grief, eventually encountering a manifestation of her sister Ella.
And Mio returns the favor.
Exactly. Mio provides the support Zoe needs, encouraging her to embrace Ella, process the loss, find closure. These moments are key. You see their initial mistrust just melt away, replaced by this really deep, supportive friendship. Their growth is tied directly to the adventure.
And this all builds to a final confrontation, right? Where everything comes together.
Absolutely. Raider gets desperate, his plan's falling apart, so he does this crazy, over-the-top thing, forces himself into their simulation, appearing as this giant, godlike figure.
Seriously.
Yeah. So the final challenge is for Mio and Zoe to use everything, their combined skills, their emotional growth, their trust, to work together one last time, defeat him, and destroy the machine.
And they succeed.
They do. They break free.
Yeah.
And that whole experience becomes the catalyst for their future. They end up writing a novel together called,
Let me guess, Split Fiction.
you got it, based on their shared ordeal. It's a really strong narrative arc, blending that personal growth, the psychological depth, with this epic genre-bending action. It all ties together surprisingly well.
Okay, this raises a big question, though. Can a game really be that ambitious narratively, digging into deep emotional stuff like trauma, while also delivering non-stop, chaotic, constantly shifting gameplay? Sounds like walking a tightrope.
It really does.
Could the story get lost in the action? Or could the serious themes clash with the, sometimes goofy gameplay? And this is exactly where things get really interesting, where that universal critical praise starts to meet some very different player experiences. The split starts here. It's a fascinating paradox.
That's exactly right. While the critics were almost unanimous, if you dig into player feedback, especially on places like Reddit, you see a much more nuanced picture, contradictory sometimes. Let's start with the positives, though, because they are huge and undeniable.
Okay, lay it on us, the good stuff first.
Right, so universally praised, masterfully designed gameplay. People love the breathtaking visuals, the meticulously crafted areas. The environment's got a lot of love, unique, starkly varying between the sci-fi and fantasy bits.
So it looks and plays great, basically.
Yeah, many called it a next-gen co-op experience. The key was never repetitive, always fresh, packed with non-stop action and adventure set pieces, and technically, perfectly optimized. People reported it running flawlessly, even on lower-end PCs. Some were getting crazy frame rates, like over 170 FPS, without needing tech like DLSS.
That's impressive optimization. What else?
The captivating musical score got mentioned a lot, and the voice acting was seen as really strong, adding to the immersion.
So on a technical and mechanical level, it sounds like a triumph. Polished, innovative. What about the actual moment-to-moment stuff? The puzzles, the challenges?
Also generally praised, the puzzles were seen as well-designed, tricky but easily solvable. People really appreciated the optimal checkpoints and quick saves, made it feel smooth, kept the momentum going, less frustration.
Nobody likes losing tons of progress.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the boss battles. Thrilling, multi-phase fights requiring real co-op strategy. Those were definite highlights. And the ending, the final act. People just called it mind-blowing, a technical marvel. Lots of comments like, never experienced anything like this before.
Wow. High praise.
Huge praise. For most players who loved it, the summary was basically a complete bundle of joy and pure entertainment. Mechanically, it seems like they nailed it for a huge chunk of the audience.
Okay, but here comes the but. This isn't the whole story. This is where our deep dive finds the complexity, right? That stirring pot of criticisms from players. And you mentioned the difficulty paradox. That seems like a major one for a co-op.
It really is, and it's fascinating because it reveals this core challenge for co-op only games.
Yeah.
On one hand, you have players finding it way more difficult than it takes two. It's especially frustrating if one player is not a seasoned gamer.
Right, playing with a partner or friend who doesn't game much.
Exactly. We saw comments like, my friend doesn't enjoy it as much, or they were struggling more. There was even that specific story about someone's partner apparently stormed off in tears during the kite race level because it was too hard for them. That really highlights the challenge of designing for mixed skill levels.
Oof. Yeah, tears are not usually the goal.
Definitely not. But then on the other hand, you have players saying it was too easy, spoon-fed, too many checkpoints. They wanted bigger penalties for failing, maybe even difficulty settings to ramp it up.
So completely opposite reactions. How do you even design for that?
That's the million-dollar question for Hazelight, isn't it? How do you make it accessible and fun for the casual pair, but still engaging for the hardcore duo? It's a unique tightrope for a game that demands two players.
That is a tricky one. Maybe dynamic difficulty. But even then, if one player's struggling, it impacts the other.
Precisely. Split Fiction seems to prioritize keeping both players moving forward together, which for some means sacrificing that deep individual challenge. It's a consequence of their specific co-op focus. And then there's the narrative and characters, another area where opinions diverge sharply from the glowing reviews.
Right, the vanilla or terrible writing comments versus the heartwarming ones.
Exactly. Some players felt the story needed more attention. Criticisms included shallow dialogue, cliched characters. A few felt the friendship development between Mio and Zoe seemed a bit forced.
And Mio's personality change.
Yeah, some found that so sudden and jarring at the end, like it wasn't fully earned. And Raider, The villain, he got singled out a lot. Terribly written, unconvincing and laughable. Not a compelling antagonist for these players.
Even the core sci-fi versus fantasy debate.
Some felt forced too, like little kids squabbling, not a deep clash of ideas, which apparently led some players to just skip the cutscenes altogether.
Skipping cutscenes in a story-driven game is telling.
It is. But again, you have to balance that with the other players and critics who love the heartwarming story, the great chemistry, found the friendship beautiful, and the characters relatable. It just shows how subjective narrative impact is. Different people want different things from a story, especially in a fast-paced action game.
But maybe the biggest point of contention where the split really shows was the gameplay balance between Mio and Zoe. That constant innovation might have hit a snag there.
This seems to be where a lot of the really passionate debate came from, and it's super insightful about balancing co-op roles. A significant number of players felt Zoe, the fantasy writer, got the short end of the stick.
How so?
Her abilities were often described as less fun, less fleshed out, sometimes just plain boring. Or worse, feeling like she was always catering to Mio's gameplay.
Examples?
Like the dragon level. Zoe could only roll and climb on hers, while Mio got to fly and shoot acid with hers. Much cooler, right? Or sections where Zoe basically became a rolling grappling hook, or a glorified door opener for Mio.
Ouch! Making one player feel like a sidekick isn't ideal in co-op.
Not at all. It created this strong feeling for some that Mio was the main character in terms of fun, engaging gameplay, leaving the Zoe player feeling a bit secondary. That can definitely breed frustration.
And this imbalance wasn't just abilities, it bled into the level design too. Sci-fi versus fantasy worlds.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Some players felt Mio's sci-fi levels, lots of ships in space, robots, metallic corridors, felt repetitive. All looks the same, maybe lacking a truly original setting within sci-fi tropes.
Okay. Generic sci-fi feel for some?
While others actually preferred Zoe's fantasy settings, finding them more original and fun, even if they admitted they weren't like the most creative fantasy worlds ever. This perception of imbalance, both mechanically and aesthetically, definitely influenced who players enjoyed playing as more. It shows how hard it is to innovate equally across two distinct genres simultaneously.
And besides the character balance, players also noticed a shift from It Takes Two, something missing in the overall world design.
That's a really sharp point many players brought up. They missed the sense of exploration and the little mini games that were everywhere in there. It Takes Two.
Ah, the playful stuff, the secrets.
Exactly. People meant those immersive hub areas, the hidden little mini games, the environmental interactivity, just finding secrets by poking around. Split Fiction, in comparison, felt more linear to them, more on rails, always rushing forward to the next big set piece.
Less room to breathe and just play in the world.
That seems to be the feeling. The relentless pace and focus on unique mechanics, while praised for action, might have come at the expense of that more intricate, interactive world building and player freedom that some loved in Hazelight's previous game. The push for constant new might have overshadowed the joy of exploring.
Interesting trade-off. And lastly, any technical issues amidst all this? You said optimization was great, but anything else?
Just minor nitpicks, really. A few PC players noted the lack of specific graphics options, like DLSS support or super granular resolution settings, things power users often expect.
But pretty minor in the grand scheme.
Very minor. Honestly, it was a whisper compared to the roar of praise for how well the game actually ran. The overall technical polish was clearly very high, even if a few niche PC options were missing.
Okay, so putting it all together, Split Fiction is undeniably this boundary-pushing co-op game, a technical achievement, constantly innovative. But that same innovation seems to create friction. It pushes players, maybe too hard for some, maybe not enough for others.
Right.
And the tension between that amazing design and maybe a less universally loved story, or the imbalance between Mio and Zoe, it clearly sparks strong, conflicting feelings. It's a perfect case study in how subjective gaming is, even for a masterpiece.
And looking at the bigger picture, it just highlights this massive challenge, creating a bespoke co-op game that genuinely satisfies everyone, the hardcore player and the casual player sitting next to them. It forces design choices that might inevitably leave someone wanting more or less. And it makes you ask, how much does that perfect narrative or perfectly balanced character gameplay truly matter when the core mechanics, the action, the spectacle are so widely praised? The critiques don't necessarily knock it off the pedestal for many, but they absolutely deepen our understanding of what different players value. It's incredibly valuable feedback for anyone making interactive stuff.
And beyond the gameplay, beyond these fascinating player debates, Split Fiction is making real waves in the wider industry too. Its influence seems to be spreading. It's more than just a hit game, it feels like a statement piece.
It absolutely is. It cements Hazelight's reputation as, the master of co-op games. Critics, players, everyone seems to agree they keep perfecting the art, keep pushing the boundaries of what co-op can be. It feels like it could genuinely mark a new era for co-op gaming.
Showing other developers it's viable, creatively rich, and commercially successful.
Exactly. It's proof that there's a huge audience for these deeply collaborative story experiences, even in an industry sometimes obsessed with solo epics or competitive multiplayer.
And Fares, as we talked about, isn't just making games, he's making them his way, rejecting trends he dislikes. Split Fiction feels like the ultimate expression of that no bullshit philosophy we discussed.
That's spot on. It's a direct, unapologetic counter-argument to live service models, to microtransactions. Fares hates that stuff, sees it as creatively lazy, bad for players.
Right.
By delivering this complete, polished, unmonetized package focused purely on gaming love, Hazelight is making a really bold statement, challenging those norms that prioritize endless revenue streams over a single great experience. It proves his philosophy works. You can make a premium self-contained game and still have a massive hit. It's a powerful message.
And the game's impact isn't stopping at gaming consoles or PCs, it's already jumping to Hollywood incredibly fast.
It's kind of nuts, actually. Just 2 weeks after release, they announced a film adaptation. Sparked this bidding war, apparently, which Amazon MGM Studios won. That speed is almost unheard of for a game adaptation.
2 weeks. Who's involved?
Some big names already attached, which shows the buzz. John M. Chu, he did Crazy Rich Asians. In the Heights, he's set to direct.
Wow, okay. He brings a certain visual style.
Definitely. And the writers, Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, the guys behind Deadpool, Zombieland, known for that sharp, funny, action-packed style.
Okay, that makes sense for the tone, maybe.
And Sydney Sweeney is attached to star and also executive produce, so serious talent involved very quickly. It just screams that the game's story, its core concept, resonated way beyond just the gaming audience. It's a huge validation.
It feels like Fares is really proving his point about games as a storytelling medium, maybe even more powerful than film, despite him saying how hard games are to make. It's a fascinating loop. Filmmaker turns game maker, game gets turned back into a film.
It is a fascinating loop.
What are the challenges there, though, adapting something so fundamentally interactive and cooperative into a passive movie?
That's the critical question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fares himself admits games are way harder to make than movies, finding interactive stories far more difficult to construct.
Yeah.
Because of player agency, right? But he loves that challenge, says that's the fun part.
Still figuring it out.
Exactly. So this adaptation is huge validation, yes, but the challenge is immense. How do you translate a game built for two people, where collaboration and split abilities are key, into a single narrative stream on screen?
Yeah, how do you capture that feeling of shared struggle of two perspectives?
Will they keep the dual genre thing visually? How do they convey that co-op bond? It's a massive test case for adapting truly interactive stories.
Yeah.
It forces us to ask what makes the game experience unique and if that can even translate. Split Fiction, the movie, isn't just another adaptation. It's wrestling with the very nature of narrative across mediums.
This really does set the stakes high for Hazelight, for the industry. Split Fiction isn't just a game, it's this bold statement about art, about players, about co-op. It pushes boundaries, inspires Hollywood, challenges norms, but it also clearly shows us that even the most ambitious, critically loved projects can land differently for different people, sparking these vital conversations about what we actually want from interactive entertainment. So as we wrap up this deep dive, it's really clear Split Fiction is a game of incredible highs. A genuine technical marvel pushes co-op forward, no doubt. The visuals, the constant mechanical shifts, that mind-blowing finale, it's a huge testament to Hazelight's creativity and Fares' vision.
Undeniably impressive on many fronts.
But we've also heard from players who found the story maybe a bit vanilla, the difficulty, a real point of division, too hard or too easy, and that character balance, especially for Zoe, feeling off sometimes, less engaging.
Right, those specific criticisms are definitely part of the story too.
It's a game that just begs for discussion, sparks that joy, that elation, but also, for some, maybe a little frustration.
And what's so fascinating is, even with those differing opinions, the overall vibe, particularly critically, points to this game bursting with creative energy. A real commitment to the player over just profit. It makes us think, what do we prioritize? What makes a game succeed when it's meant to be shared?
Yeah.
That split, in opinion, doesn't really undermine its impact, I think. It just enriches our understanding of the tightrope walk involved in making something so deliberately innovative and co-op focused.
So as you, listening, reflect on Split Fiction from Fares the Visionary, through the wild gameplay, the emotional depths, that mind-blowing end, the debates it caused, even the upcoming movie. What truly defines a masterpiece in an interactive medium, especially one built entirely around a shared experience, and maybe more pointedly? What responsibility do developers have? How do they cater to all skill levels, the hardcore player and the complete newcomer, when the game itself demands they play together in that co-op only world? Something to think about. We hope this deep dive gave you plenty to chew on.